Welcome to the Virginia Civics and Economics Lecture Series. At the end of each slide, there will be a 5-second delay. Use this time to complete your notes. When you are done, push play and move on to the next slide. This presentation will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to Virginia Civics and Economics Lecture 2.5 on Circular Flow and Personal Finance, and let's talk about flow. Not that flow. I'm talking about flow. You know, like go with the flow, or how blood flows through your heart, or even a pan flute flow chart. Wait a minute. Do you need one? No, no pan flute. Do you need one? Yes. No, you don't. No pan flute. So there's a lot of places where we see flow, but what about when it comes to money? How does money flow? And more importantly, how does understanding all of this flow, economic systems, business formation impact your ability to make personal finance and career decisions? Well, we're going to look at that today, and with that said, let's go to the next slide. An economist, or a person who studies the economy, does a job that is very much like that of a plumber or an electrician. Like a plumber who watches how water flows through a system of pipes, or an electrician who watches how electricity flows through a system of wires, an economist watches how money flows through an economic system. So let's look at one of those economic systems and start with basic economic flow, or circular flow. You need to understand this first before we can actually look at the system. Individuals and businesses use savings and investments to provide financial capital, or money, that can be borrowed for business expansion and increased consumption. In other words, money makes the world go round. Without money, you do not have an economic system. And without money going from one place to another in that system, the system doesn't work. So with that said, in a basic economic flow, capital flows evenly between individuals and businesses. What does this look like? Let's look at a basic circular flow chart. Individuals own the resources used in production, sell the resources, and use the income to produce products. We call that income. So we have individuals. They're going to use their income, that's their money, and they're going to use it to buy goods and get services from businesses. So the money's gone from individuals to businesses. Then businesses buy resources, make products to be sold to other businesses, individuals, and the government, and use profits to buy more resources. We call that expenditures. So businesses then give their money, the expenditures, back to the individuals to pay for things like salaries, to buy materials to make more goods, and the money goes back from the businesses to the individuals. This is a model of closed system economic circular flow, and it's pretty straightforward. So what happens next? Go to the next slide. Plumbers and electricians make a lot of money because without plumbers and electricians, the water doesn't flow to or from a certain place, and the electricity doesn't get to the right socket. So how do economists make money when studying the economic circular flow system? Well, it works like this. Capital leaks from a closed system via the financial sector, government, and trade. As such, total capital should be accounted for, including all leaks where the money's going out of the system and injections where money's coming back in to maintain a healthy economic flow. In other words, we need to find and account for all of the leaks in the system, and that's what economists do. They make sure that we have a healthy economy by figuring out where all of the money is disappearing from and coming back into our closed circular flow system. And the first place that we have a leak is in the financial sector or banks. They receive excess income from individuals, that's called savings, and they inject that income back into the system via businesses. Those are investments or loans. Here's our basic circular flow with individuals giving their income to businesses and the businesses giving their expenditures back to individuals. And here's our savings leak one. Here's the savings from the individuals. Those go into the banks, so that's excess income of individuals going into the banks, and then the banks are using that excess income as investment. They're loaning it back out to businesses so that businesses can grow and expand. Go to the next slide. Anybody could possibly plug a simple leak, but an economist is asked to plug multiple leaks, including leaks that we're not going to talk about in this lecture. So let's look at the other two major leaks that we find in an economic system. And leak two has to deal with taxation. The government uses tax revenue from individuals and businesses to provide public goods and services. You learned about that when you studied civics. Here's the economic impact. We have our basic circular flow with our savings, which is leak one. Now we have to talk about taxation, leak two. Individuals pay taxes to the government. That's just like excess income to the banks. Instead, you learned that individuals have a civic duty to pay those taxes to the government. And the government is then going to spend that money. And as it spends that money, it gets back into the basic circular flow, usually through businesses or large expenditures for public works. So, basic circular flow, savings are leak one. Taxation is leak number two. Go to the next slide. Our third leak has to do with foreign trade, and for an economist, this is the hardest leak to plug. Foreign trade injects goods and services into the economy that are bought by consumers. We call these imports. That's stuff that's brought into the United States that we buy, and sends goods and services out of the economy to be bought abroad. Those are exports. That's stuff we make here and send overseas or out of the country to be bought somewhere else. So here's our basic circular flow chart. This is savings, leak one. This is taxation, leak two. And let's talk about trade, leak three. Here's how it works. Individuals buy imports. That's goods that come in and money that goes out into international trade. And then we have exports. That's goods that come out from businesses and money that comes into the country. Here's the problem. Savings and taxation leaks, they happen exclusively in the United States of America, whereas trade leaks happen outside our system. So the goal here is to eliminate trade imbalances and keep the system healthy. We want as much money to leave our country as comes in from the goods that we give to the rest of the world. Go to the next slide. We talked a lot about what an economist does, but we have yet to address how that person got her or his job. So now it's time to talk about finance and career opportunities, and we start with self-assessment. Because unlike when I was a kid in 1989, you need to plan your career, and you need to start now. Career planning starts with self-assessment. You need to look at your interest, skills, achievements, and values. No longer is it right for you to say, I want that particular job. Now you need to say, where do my skills best fit into this economy? And that change has been driven by employers, seeking employees who demonstrate the attitudes and behaviors of a strong work ethic. And we can define that term as integrity, sense of responsibility, emphasis on quality, discipline, and a sense of teamwork. We do a lot of collaborative work in civics and economics because employers expect you to be able to collaborate with your peers once you get a job. Then there's education. Higher skill and or education levels generally lead to higher incomes. And here are some numbers to back that up. In 2010, those with only a high school diploma accounted for 39% of those people making $20,000 to $30,000, but only 8% of those earning more than $100,000. In contrast, college graduates only accounted for 18% of the $20,000 to $30,000 group and 75% of people earning more than $100,000, despite the population of these two educational demographic groups being roughly equal. In other words, education is important and knowing your skill set is important. Failure to plan for your career is like throwing the dice. Go to the next slide. Another difference between being a kid in 1989 and today is that finance and career opportunities are impacted by technology. Remember learning about supply and demand? Well, you're about to see how that concept will affect you personally in the near future. Supply and demand also influence job income. So, manufacturing jobs here in the United States have mostly been replaced by service industry, technological, and professional service positions. And employers seek individuals who have kept pace with technological changes by updating their skills. For example, being able to use the latest hardware, software, and social media platforms. So if you're this lady, do emails get delivered on Sundays? You're probably out of luck when it comes to working in today's economy. But that's not all. You see, technological advancements create new jobs in the workplace. There are prominent industries today that did not exist 5 years ago. In 1989, we had not even heard of the internet yet. Now, whole industries, not just individual businesses, but whole sectors of the economy exist that did not exist 5 years ago. And technology and information flow permits people to work across international borders. This creates competition from foreign workers for United States jobs, but also may create opportunities for United States workers to work for companies based in other countries. We call this outsourcing versus the benefits of a global workforce. At the end of the day, you may work here in the United States, but the company you may work for is nowhere in the United States. Or you may be talking to somebody from a completely different country who is acting as though they are here in the United States. Go to the next slide. Finally, we need to talk about fiscal responsibility and how that impacts our finance and career opportunities. Because as you already know, fiscal responsibility equals good citizenship. So being fiscally responsible includes the following: making careful spending decisions, saving and investing for the future, having insurance. What if I get sick? What if my car gets in an accident? What if my apartment burns to the ground? Do I have a way to pay for my medical bills or to replace the things that I've lost? We need to learn how to keep to a budget, one that allows us to live within our means, and we need to learn how to use credit wisely. Here's the thing: debt, that means money that you owe, is significantly impacting the ability of younger citizens just like you to thrive in the modern economy. And finally, we have to understand how contracts, warranties, and guarantees can protect the individual. What are those things? Well, all you need to do is answer the following questions. For contract, is my agreement with another person enforceable in court? Contract. For warranty, will the person who made the product fix it if it breaks? You got a warranty. And for guarantee, is someone else going to pay if a person who originally borrowed money can't pay it back? You need to know what a contract, warranty, and guarantee are to be fiscally responsible. That's it for this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.